This month's recipe, we have smoked tri-tip rubbed with a chili coffee spice rub, and then to go with it we're going to make our own steak sauce. This is going to make much more spice rub than you're going to need. Recognize when you make this recipe, you'll have enough spice rub for making barbecue, I think, for the summer. Ideally, you'd want to do the day before. Flavor will benefit greatly if you can have the foresight to think of that ahead of time. So to go with our smoked tri-tip, we've got our own take on steak sauce. Tart dried cherries, which we're going to cover with about a cup of hot water and let them rehydrate. It takes about 20 minutes just to let them steep and plump up a little bit. Once your cherries have reconstituted, throw them in a blender jar with the water that they're soaking in. Puree on high. Two tablespoons of pomegranate molasses. You can find Middle Eastern stores, gourmet cookware stores. Really nice stuff. It has a real sort of sweet, tart balance, and if you buy a bottle of it, this stuff lasts forever. 1 clove of garlic, which I'm going to grate on a rasper. You could mince the garlic as well, but this is actually a really easy way to get your garlic into the dish without having little pieces of it. And a pinch of star anise. If you're not familiar with star anise, it's not as common a spice, but it comes from a pine tree and it has these star-shaped pods, and it's one of the main ingredients in Chinese 5-spice powder. A little goes a long way, but it provides a lot of that sort of licorice flavor. So these are all of our ingredients that are going to go in the steak sauce, and all we're going to do is slowly simmer it on the back of the stove and let the flavors blend. So that takes 10-15 minutes or so. We're going to do indirect cooking. We're going to smoke our tri-tip. Once your coals are good and hot, bank them all to one side of the barbecue so that you're going to sear it 1 or 2 minutes on each side, give it a little bit of color, but then we'll slide it over to the cool side of the grill, cook it indirectly with the fattest side of the tri-tip facing the coals. Once you slide it over so it's cooking indirectly, take a handful of your smoking chips and throw them on top of the coals. Once they start to smolder, put the lid of the barbecue on top. Make sure the vents are open. You want to make sure you've got good airflow coming from the bottom as well as out through the top. And if there's not, your fire will die on you. It should smoke for about close to 20 minutes. About halfway in, check on it, turn it over. It'll develop a little bit more color on the side facing the grill, and turn it over onto the other side to finish cooking. I think it'll be a nice compliment to the Napa Valley Cabernet.
Oh, wonderful. I can't wait.
I grew up on the East Coast, but you're a native California. I don't know, as you were growing up, did you have tri-tip friends and family? Yeah.
Yes.
Really, really flavorful, and I can see why people single it out and seek it out. But one of the things is to sort of cook it gently because it's fairly lean. And also the other key thing is to slice it thinly and against the grain.
I think one of the most important things to harmonize between wine and food is flavor. And the intensity of the flavor matches perfectly. But the beef kind of, the protein in the beef kind of softens the tannin in the wine and makes it lush, and the fruit starts to really come out, pop out. And then the spices, the chilies, the cherries, the coffee, I mean, that just kind of perks up your taste buds and really, really makes wine even more fruitier, but also kind of gives us this full, robust richness to it. It's really, really great.
It's a beautiful wine. We
source the fruit from some of the finest Cabernet Sauvignon vineyards in Napa Valley. You get bright cherry from the southern end up to very deep, ripe blackberry, boysenberry from the warmer northern end of Napa Valley. And together it just makes one of the most beautiful blends. Cheers.
Tri-tip, if you're not familiar with it, in California and a lot of people's backyards, this is what backyard barbecue is. Tri-tip comes from the shoulder. It's a pretty lean cut of meat, and usually meat that comes from the shoulder is more often than not used for stew meat. And I know if you go to other parts of the country, it's starting to get out there, and you're seeing it in butcher's cases, but here it's sort of a staple. It's a sort of a triangular piece of meat. Like this, a little bit of fat on here is okay, but by and large the meat itself is pretty lean. Usually all the shoulder meat is very tough and takes a long time for that connective tissue to break down. But this one particular cut can be very tender if you know how to treat it. And so typically what you want to do is, like today we're going to smoke it, which is more of a gentle heat cooking, and also knowing how to slice it. If you slice it against the grain, really thin slices, it's nice and tender.